Good morning. My name is Pastor Gerald Mitchell. Um, I'm responding to your email to make a video about why I'm excited about taking the position of being the student minister at the Boys Academy. This is something for me that's a godsend because I'm one of those troubled children. I grew up that way myself. And I came from a broken family. My father left when I was 6 years old, left my mother with 6 children. He was an alcoholic, and I live on the streets of Brooklyn, New York. And I'm 6 years old, and my mother has 6 kids. Next thing I know, I don't have a father. He's an alcoholic. He's gone. He left us with no money, never sent us any alimony or child support, nothing. And this was very hard for my mother. And in the streets of Brooklyn, things were pretty bad. But I want to tell you why I'm excited about this job. Because I see children as our greatest treasure, and the last thing I want to see happen to them is what happened to me. So I spent many of my years, my earlier years, because I was also a New York City police officer, and even before that, I would spend time with children in boys' clubs and helping boys, do activities, come to the club, stay out of trouble, I would preach to them. I've been a minister since 1985, so I was very well versed in the Word of God, but my main concern was to talk to them individually as people, not as children. Hey, do what I say. Don't ask me why. Just do it. Because that's how I was raised. Do what I say. Don't ask me why. Just do it. And that creates a lot of animosity in children. So if you don't speak to children as people and let them know why they have to do certain things, what's the reason why they have to do certain things, then they're going to question, why are you making me do this? I don't want to do this. You're making me do this. But I'm going to get into that in my next video. But right now, what I want to talk to you about is, I believe that children are our future. They're our greatest treasure, because without them, we don't have a future. Eventually, if the children, let's say they all go into anarchy and chaos, that's what the world will become. If we're not raising our children to properly run our communities and society and our institutions, if we don't have that asset, we're dooming ourselves. But I also believe that this is a gift from God. That these children are gifts from God, and to parents and to teachers, that it gives us a great responsibility to raise them in ways of righteousness and teaching them to become successful adults and contributing to a universal community society that benefits everybody, that we all share this society. We're all part of this one society. So if children aren't, being raised properly to partake in this society, that's a waste. It's a loss to society because they're not contributing to society. They're just making it worse, and that's not good for anybody, especially not the child, because the child is going to suffer the most. But society doesn't gain anything either. Neither does the community. So this is a sacred treasure that we got to nurture it properly. It's like like a hen sitting on an egg. You got to make sure that that egg is taken care of. So it can hatch properly and grow and be strong. Parenting. So parenting and teaching, these are the greatest tools for raising our children. But this is what God entrusted unto parents and teachers. This is a sacred responsibility that we've all been given. We all have the responsibility to take care of these children. This is our job as grown-ups that supposedly we're supposed to know better, and to teach our children the better way of life, So so we're entrusted with this task by God, to convey what we've learned onto our children, and to make them better people, and to make our society a better society where we get along better, and it just makes the world a better place. This is God's gift to us, and it's God's commandment that we should do this. But it should be done with joy. It's not like, it shouldn't be a burden to raise a child, because if it's a burden to raise a child, you shouldn't be raising a child. If you bring a child into this world, and if that child is a burden to you, you have no right bringing a child into the world. So, and this is how most troubled children become troubled, because parents are having children that they shouldn't be having. Either they're too young, or they're just not capable of taking care of children, or maybe they had bad experiences growing up. Maybe their parents were dysfunctional, and they're not capable of raising children. They were never taught by their parents to grow up to be good individuals. So how are they supposed to teach their children to be good individuals if they weren't raised that way? So there's a lot of factors involved here why children become troubled children. Like I said, and a lot of it has to do with teenagers giving birth to kids, babies. You're a child yourself. You haven't really experienced life yet, and now you're going to raise a child. You haven't raised yourself yet, and you're already raising children. This is a recipe for disaster. So I understand how all these things come about, and like I said, I'm a victim of all of this. So there isn't anything that these children are going through that I haven't experienced myself. As I said, it takes a village to raise a child, so that means that everybody that comes in contact with this child, they have a sacred task of leading this child down the right path. People they meet on the streets, everybody has a responsibility to this child, not just the parents and the teachers, but people on the street meeting them, have a responsibility, because like I said, it takes the village to do this. And so we all have to contribute to helping this child grow up to be a good person, And a lot of times you see people that, going up to a child and say, "Oh, what a wonderful young boy you are," and they say to the parent, "Oh, you must be so proud." You know what? That's good positive input. That you want to compliment that child. How well behaved they are and things like that. This is good. This is good, positive feedback. A child needs to hear that, you know, that they're being good. You know, they need to be told that yes, you're being good. You know, and you're doing very well. That positive reinforcement. You know, if that's not being given to them, if you know, if they're doing things and they're working hard to do it, and they're not being told that they're doing it well, that's disappointing for a child. You know, so whoever they come in contact with, they need that reinforcement. You know, because children are always looking for acceptance. We all are. Even today, everybody's still, no matter how old you get, you still want to be accepted. You don't want to be cast out. You don't want to be set apart like you don't belong here. You know, you want to be part of a community. You know, so children want to be part of that community too. You know, they want to know that all their efforts are being recognized. And we should recognize them and let them know and give them positive feedback that you're doing very well, you know, and I expect that you're going to do even better, you know, that because you're doing so well, you're on a great track, great path, you know, to becoming a wonderful person that's going to do great things, you know. So these are my attitudes about children, that, you know, giving them this positive feedback, you know, which they're sorely lacking. A lot of times children, you're a bad kid, you know, they're being smacked around, you shouldn't be doing that, don't do this, don't do that. When you tell a child not to do something, and if you reinforce that with violence, which is exactly how I was treated as a child, I was told, don't do this, and I would get beatings from my mother, from my teachers, from my uncles, friends, people in the neighborhood would smack me and hit me and not even tell me what I did wrong or why it was wrong. You know, they're just saying, don't do that. Boom, you get smacked. This creates a lot of animosity in a child, you know, that they cannot understand. All right, I understand you're hitting me. I understand, you know, believe me, and you're terrifying me, you know, and what you're doing to me is really traumatic because I'm not understanding why you're doing this to me. You're not explaining it to me, you know. If you sat down and talked to me like a person and explained to me, listen, if you do this, you know, let's say you broke a window, you know, well, I know you didn't mean to break the window. You know, try to reason with the child and let them understand on a level that they can understand why what they just did was wrong, by throwing a rock at a window. You know, there's a simple little thing, but children don't know better. They just think it's funny. Okay, I want to throw a rock and I want to break a window. But if you sit down and explain to them, listen, the person that you threw the rock at the window at, they now have to pay to replace that window, and it's going to be a great burden on them because maybe they cannot afford to pay to replace that window. You know, so you want to appeal to their senses where what they're doing is causing loss to someone else, because they're not thinking about that. They're not thinking about how this is going to cost somebody else money or it's going to cause a problem for them. They're not thinking about that. They're just thinking about having fun and throwing a rock at a window. To them, that's fun. You know, to them, this is like a game to them. So they don't understand that it has consequences to the people that you're doing it to. But you got to sit down and explain it to them and say to them, listen, if that was your window and somebody broke it, you know, how would you feel about it? You know, would you be upset? You know, that now you have to come up with the money to replace that window? Would you like it if somebody came over and threw a rock at your window in your house, you know, and they're laughing and they're running away and they think it's funny? But now you've got a broken window, and and somebody could get hurt with the window. There's glass, you know. You got to take the time to talk to a child. If you don't do that, then how are they ever going to learn? That what they're doing is wrong. And now children are going to make mistakes. That's guaranteed. But if you don't explain to them what the mistake is and why it and what the consequences are to that mistake, and if you keep doing this, you're just going to keep getting into trouble. Because let's say you throw the rock at the window. Now somebody saw you do it. They know it was you, and now they're going to go to your parents, and maybe your parents have to pay for that window. And is that going to make your parents happy? Absolutely not. Paying $100 to replace a window, and who do you think they're going to take that out on? They're going to take it out on you, so you're going to be penalized for what you just did, and I know you don't want to get a beating. I know you don't want to be disciplined, so maybe the simplest thing is just don't throw the rock, maybe. What do you think? I would want to ask, what's your opinion? What do you think is the right thing here? That's the way I like to talk to children. I want to know, what do you think about it? Put yourself in their position, and I want to reverse the roles. I want to sit and talk with this child independently, one-on-one. And first of all, ask why did they throw the rock in the first place, and I know, I already know why, but I want to know if they know why, and they're saying, well, I just thought it was a funny thing to do at the time. I say, okay, I get it. You thought it was funny, and maybe one of your friends told you to do it, they dared you to do it, and you did it, so I understand children's mentality, and why they do the things that they do, because everything that they've done, I've done it myself. I did all these things. I did these things and many much worse things, okay? By the time I was 14 years old, maybe 16 years old, I think I was arrested about 10 times for all the bad things that, I'm not laughing about it, but it's like incredible how much trouble I was getting into because I'm doing all these bad things, like throwing rocks at windows, breaking bottles or scratching cars, and I'm not realizing that this is costing other people money. To me, this was just some kind of antic that I was doing destructive things, and I had no consideration of how this was affecting some other people. Because nobody ever explained it to me. Nobody ever told me how this is affecting someone else. Nobody sat down with me. Nobody would explain things to me. Why what I'm doing wrong is having an effect on other people, and that I wouldn't want that to be done to me. They're not explaining it to me that way. So. But it's each one of us. We all have a responsibility to be directly involved in what that child is learning. Everybody, we're all responsible for this, and if you walk away from that responsibility, then you're not much of a contribution to the community either. If you're not, like I said, it takes a village. So if you're seeing a child doing something wrong and you're not trying to help that child, or prevent that child from getting into trouble, then this great task that God gave to you, you just tossed it out the window like it didn't bother you at all. You've been given this task by God to watch over these children. That's our job. That's why we're role models for these children. And if we're not going to be a role model for the children, and explain to them how to do better things, what's going to happen to this child? They're going to just continue to do whatever they're doing wrong, and even if they get a beating from it, even if they get penalized from it, if you're not explaining to them what they're doing wrong and why it's wrong and how they can be better, if you're not going to take the time to explain it to them, then you're not doing anything to help that child. In fact, I'm going to hold you guilty because you're partially responsible for their actions by allowing them to do something and not helping them to understand what they're doing wrong. You know, you're just like a bystander. You're just watching them do it, and you don't say a word. You know, so I'm holding you responsible because you didn't do anything to get involved in this child's life to help them to do better things. So we're all directly involved in this, you know, in the learning of a child. Everybody is involved in this. It takes everybody, you know, to contribute to raising this child, you know. Like I said, this is a sacred trust given to us by God. This is God. A child is a blessing. A birth of a child, and we all know this. And whenever a child is born, we have a great celebration. I mean, even the worst of parents, they still have a celebration when they have a child because they know it's a blessing. They know that this is a blessing from God. You know, they may not be the greatest parents, but that doesn't mean that they don't understand that this is a blessing. So if you know it's a blessing, then why are you not treating it sacredly? That this is a treasure from God that God is giving to you, a gift to you, and you're not treating it with the reverence it deserves. So unfortunately, like I said before, not every parent is capable of raising a child, or even willing to take on that task. You know, for whatever reasons, I could rattle off a million reasons why a parent is not capable of taking care of a child. And that's sad because the one that loses is that child. Yeah, but it's all, the parent is losing too, because when that child grows up and turns out to be a very terrible person, well, all that's going to reflect back on the parent, and the parent's not going to have any control over that child because you lost that control when you stopped caring about that child, about what they were doing on their daily lives. You weren't involved in their lives. And now that they're criminals, you know, in and out of jail or whatever, you know, and now you're saying, wow, you know, I got these terrible children, you know, and you're filled with regret that and you don't want to blame yourself because you say, well, it wasn't me, it was them, they're bad. No, it's not the kid. The kid is not bad. It's the people that are raising that child that are bad. You know, if and I'm going to admit it, yeah, of course, there could be very affluent families with lots of money. They have maids, they have nannies, they got everything, tutors for these children. And the children will still turn out to be bad. Why? Because they're getting involved with other children that are bad. Okay? But if you're not a responsible parent and monitoring what they're doing, you know, and who they're involved with, who they're hanging out with, and if they're taking drugs, if you're not aware that they're taking drugs, then you're just not paying attention, you know. And a lot of rich people, I'm not saying that they're bad, I'm just saying that a lot of rich people, they're too busy with their jobs, making all their money, that they're not even concerned about their children. And a lot of times they put their children into academies, similar to what you have, the military academy, because they want to get rid of the kid. They don't want to raise the kid. They say, well, I got enough money, let somebody else raise my kid. That's not the way to raise a kid. You don't let somebody else raise your kid. That's your job. That's the job God gave to you. You shouldn't be shuffling your child off to some military academy because Yeah, I mean, it's good for the child to learn the discipline. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but you should also be well involved in that child. Like, don't send them off to a military academy, like, and then never go see them, never, get involved in their curriculum, what they're learning, and encourage them to do well. And if you're not directly involved in their education and what they're learning, all you're doing is you're pawning off your child to someone else to let them raise them. And that's not the task that God gave you. You're in charge of that child. That's your child. You know. But sending them to school, I mean, of course, these are important things. Yes, send them to school, but don't do it to abandon them to let somebody else raise them. That shouldn't be the reason. So, but that's what happens, and so the child, they're not being nurtured properly. They don't have the family love that they need. To be hugged, loved, doted over. I'm not saying that you got to spoil your child, but you got to at least let them know you love them, and that you care about them, and that if there's a problem, that they can talk to you about it. Why? Because you talk to them. So if you talk to them, they'll talk to you. But if you let's say you're having your child is having a problem, and you want to talk to them, and they're giving you this, whatever, I don't want to hear it, whatever, that's, you don't leave it at that. You need to find out what the problem is. So you need to sit down with your child and communicate with them, and try to, get inside of their head and say, excuse me, what's bothering you? Like, now, they're not going to volunteer the information. They're not going to tell you what they're up to, because most of the time it's not good. So if they're having a problem, especially in school with other children, they might be being bullied, or maybe they're bullying other people, or maybe they're part of a little clique, a gang of clique that are doing bad things. But if you're not sitting down with your child and finding out what they're doing, and then discussing this with them, then how are you supposed to know what's going on, inside their head? You don't know. You don't have a clue. So this, to me, the most important thing that you have to do with a child is to communicate with this child. And if you do really care about them, then you'll notice subtle changes in them, in their attitude, the way they sass you back. If they're sassing you back, or they're telling you whatever, which is one of the famous phrases today. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever you say, whatever. And whatever means I'm not listening to. That's what whatever means. Whatever you just said, I'm just saying whatever. I didn't hear a word you said, because I don't even care what you're talking to me about, because you're not communicating with me. You're dictating to me, but you're not trying to find out what I feel, or why I feel it, and you need to know that. You need to know what a child is feeling, what's inside of them, what's hurting them, what's prompting them to be rebellious. If you're not trying to get to the root of that problem, then you're failing, So that's why I make it my business, because first of all, I can relate to what's going through their mind, because I went through there isn't anything that a child has done that I haven't done myself. Nothing. Okay? There's nothing that they've done that I haven't done myself. So I'm very familiar with children and how they get themselves involved in trouble, because that's all that I ever did. I kept getting in trouble, and I was always following the wrong path, following other people. Whatever they were doing, I would do it too. And I wouldn't tell my mother what I was doing. Like I said, my mother had 6 children to raise by herself. My father was an alcoholic. He was gone when I was 6. My mother really didn't have time to supervise 6 children while she's at work, okay, in the 1960s. She's at work. It wasn't illegal to leave your children alone at that time, but it is now. But she would leave the house at 7:30 in the morning. We didn't have to be at school till 9. So between 7:30 and 9 o'clock, we could do whatever we want. There's no supervision. Nobody's there telling us what to do. And she doesn't return home until 6 p.m. So now we got 3 p.m. we get out of school. We got 3 more hours to do whatever else we want to do. So we got 6 kids running in 6 different directions, doing 6 different things, all mischievous, okay? Because we're all unsupervised, and nobody's sitting down and asking us, well, how was your day? What did you do today? No, nobody. The only responses I would get from my mother is, what did you do bad today? Because she would find out. People would tell her. Before she even walked up the block, 20 people on the block would tell her what I did, or what my brothers did, or what my sisters did. Because everybody on my block was nosy. They always had their heads out the window watching what we're all doing. So by the time my mother got home at 6 p.m., she already knew 20 things that we all did wrong. And we don't know what she knows, but she knows it. So, but when she would discipline us, it was with violence, with hitting. She would hit us with belts, broom handles, hangers, you name it, whatever she could get her hands on, she would just beat us. But she wouldn't ask us why we did what we did. She would just give us a beating. So I came to we all came to the same conclusion. Well, Mom doesn't care why we're doing it. She's just going to punish us when we do it. But she's not asking us why. She's not trying to find out why we're getting into this kind of trouble. She's not trying to communicate with us. She's just disciplining us. It's like, you might as well just put us in a torture chamber, just keep beating us and not tell us why. And that's what it felt like. I'm being beaten up, but I don't know why. Now, I know I did something wrong, but I don't know what it is she's hitting me for. I don't know what she found out. I don't know maybe I didn't even do it, but it didn't matter to me. I got so used to getting beatings that it became a normal way of life. Violence became a normal way of life for me in the streets of Brooklyn. So how do you think I'm being raised? I'm being raised around violence. My mother's violent because she's crazy. I'm not saying my mother's crazy, but she's not able to cope with all the 6 children that are doing 6 different things in 6 different directions without any supervision whatsoever. We have no supervision, and then you blame us for doing bad things, But we have no guidance. There's nobody telling us what the right things are to do. So, who's failing? Is it me? Am I failing because I'm a child and I'm unsupervised and nobody's telling me the right things to do? Is it my fault that I'm doing all these things? Yeah, I'm the one that's doing the mischief and whatever crimes I'm doing, whatever, or violence, whatever, that I'm getting involved in on the streets of Brooklyn. I'm the one that's doing it. But I don't have any supervision. I don't have a father, My mother has to be my father and my mother. So, she has to go out and work, and we're unsupervised. 6 kids. So, who's failing? Now, I don't blame my mother. I understand why, she has a problem coping with this, because it's just overwhelming for her, that she just can't control what 6 different kids are doing in 6 different directions. She has no idea how to handle this. And her only answer was, I'm just going to beat you, but it didn't take effect. The more you beat me, the more angry I would get that you're beating me. But you're not explaining to me why I shouldn't be doing it. You're not giving me that guidance, that supervision. You're not teaching me the right way. You're too busy hitting me, So what happens to me? I'm going to get a resentment now against my own mother, that she doesn't care about me. All she cares about is if she hears that I did something wrong, it's bothering her that somebody even had to tell her that. She's embarrassed that somebody told her that I did something wrong, and she wants to just beat me. And she's thinking that somehow by that beating that I'm not going to do it again. But that you didn't teach me anything. All you taught me was that I'm just going to get beat. So I got used to the beatings. It didn't even bother me that I was getting beat up by my own mother. So talk about as a dysfunctional family. Yeah, I know exactly what that's like, you know. So as I'm getting older, the older I'm getting and the more she's beating me, the more rebellious I'm getting. Because you're not taking the time to talk to me. And I don't have any, like, role model to learn from. I had some people that were trying to help me, but the rebelliousness inside of me was so deeply embedded and controlling me because, like I said, it was very rare that anybody ever sat down and talked with me. My teachers at school, I was very disruptive in school. I was failing all my classes because why? I'm not paying attention to the teacher because I don't want to hear what they have to say. You know, you're not even making this where it's something I want to learn. You're not making it interesting for me that I should want to learn this because I'm in school. I'm saying, why am I even here? I don't care about what happened in 1769. You know, you're talking to me about history. You think I care about history in 1769? What took place 200 years ago? I mean, I could care less. You know, you think that's an interest to me? I'm interested in having fun. I'm interested in getting into trouble. I'm interested in just doing whatever I please. And I'm going to continue to do whatever I please, regardless of the beatings, because the beatings are just making me more angry. You know, so the more you beat me, the more you don't talk to me, the more you don't guide me, the more I'm going to do bad things. So there's, you know, like I said, there's a lot of reasons why children turn out to be troubled children. And I spent a lot of my time, especially as a police officer, getting children involved and working with boys' clubs because I didn't want them to suffer the way I did. I didn't want them to experience the kind of a sense of abandonment that nobody really cared about me, you know. And I said, well, if nobody cares about me, then why should I care? If you don't care about me, why should I care about me? That was my attitude. I said, if you don't care, and if you're just going to keep beating me every time I do something wrong and not explain to me why I'm doing it wrong, then why do I need to, you know, be a better person? How am I supposed to be a better person if you're not teaching me how to be a better person? You know, all you're doing is beating me up and showing me violence. And my entire neighborhood was nothing but violence. There were gangs, drugs, which I did drugs too. You know, I did a lot of bad things, you know, stealing, you know, I did all these bad things up until the age of 16 years old. Now, here's what changed my life. I'm 16 years old, and I have an 18-year-old brother who, a lot of the things that I was doing, I was following in my brother's footsteps, and my older sister, and I had another brother that was 1 year older than me. He was 17. I'm 16. So my 18-year-old brother, he was heavy into drugs. I was doing drugs at the same time. I was doing drugs at 16 years old. And, but he was doing it heavy. You know, he was really, I think he actually was a drug dealer. So he suffered an overdose and died. I'm 16 years old when this happened. This had a profound effect on me, you know, and and it was at that time, not because of somebody teaching me that I should be doing better things, but I started to realize something, and I believe this was God's blessings upon me, showing me, Jerry, if you don't want to end up like your brother, you need to change your life. You know, you know, I loved my brother. You know, he was actually the only one that really cared about me, that would look out for me and watch out for me, because he didn't want me to be like him. He, you know, he was wise beyond his years. Like, he was trying to teach me, Jerry, listen, I'm doing bad things, but I don't want you to do bad things. You know, yeah, I'm doing drugs. Yeah, I'm drinking. Yeah, I'm in gangs and I'm fighting with other people. And he was strong. He was big. People feared him. But he said, I don't want you to be like me. Don't follow after my footsteps, because it's not good what I'm doing. He was telling me it's not good. He was actually the only one telling me not to follow in his footsteps. You know, like, and if he ever caught me doing things that he was doing, he would give me a lesson. You know, and it was a good lesson. You know, first he would talk to me, explain it to me, which nobody would ever do. This is my own brother would take the time to do this, to try to teach me, don't do these things. You know, don't do what I'm doing. You know, don't follow after my footsteps. You know, because you're going to get into trouble. He says, you're not ready to do the things that I'm doing. You know, I'm older. You know, you're younger. You're not prepared to handle the kind of things that I'm doing. You know, he's trying to explain it to me. He said, you're just not capable of doing what I'm able to do. You know, I'm able to defend myself. I'm able to take care of myself. Unfortunately, he didn't, because he died from an overdose. But he was able to, you know, take care of himself. And nobody would bother with my brother, because everybody was afraid of my brother. Which is why I kind of idolized him. I said, wow, you know, look how everybody's afraid of my brother, you know. So I idolized him, you know, that, you know, I wanted to be like him, you know. I'm saying, you know, I want to be just like you. Like, I don't want to be pushed around. I want people to fear me like they fear you, you know. But I wasn't a ferocious person. I was always the smallest one in my class. I was the shortest one in my class. I wasn't big, strong. I was always hungry. I was always starving because we didn't have food in the house. So I was a thin little kid, you know, but I was doing manly things that grown-ups do, but I'm 13, 14, 15 years old doing these things, you know. So like I said, you know, by the time I was 16 years old, I must have been arrested about 10 times, but nothing. I was never prosecuted, but every time I would get arrested, the police would take me to the police department, and they would call my mother, and my mother would have to come and get me, and I'd catch another beating, you know. No explanation as to why I shouldn't have been doing what I was doing. All she's saying, I can't believe you're doing it. Boom, 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 smack, smack, smack. And I said, okay, well, at least I got away with it, you know. I mean, I wasn't punished by the police. I wasn't thrown into juvenile youth prisons or something like that, you know, which, thank God, that, you know, that I, you know, all the things that I was doing wrong, I never really got penalized with, except for the beatings. But so there was no court actions against me, you know. They would just release me to my mother, you know. But now I had to face my mother. So I understand what children are going through. Believe me, I do. I understand. There isn't anything that children are doing that I don't understand, because I've done it myself. You know, so I relate to them individually. I talk to them one-on-one. This is the only way that you can help a child. You got to speak to them as a person. You cannot just bark orders at them, tell them, you have to do this, you have to do that. And don't ask me why, just do it. You know, that's not what children want to hear. You know, children, they they want to understand first of all, why do I have to do this? What benefit is it to me to do this? And and what's my reward for doing this? And because you're telling me I have to do something, but what do I get out of it? Like what's my benefit? For doing this? Am I doing it just because you're telling me I have to do it? And if I don't do it, well, you're going to punish me. That's not a good way to teach a child. Either do it or you're going to get punished. That's not what children want to hear. Because all you're doing is you're building up a resentment against you because you're forcing them to do things. First of all, that they don't understand why you're making them do this. They don't understand the benefit of what they're going to get out of it. And there's no reward. For fulfilling what it is you want them to do. So, if these are the combinations that are happening to a child, it's no wonder that they're going to be troubled. It's inevitable. This is an inevitability. It has to happen because you're not concerned about what this child is feeling, and that's the greatest loss. You're not concerned about what's in this child's head, and I know what's in their head because I know what was in my head. I know exactly what I was thinking while this was going on. All I felt was resentment. That's all I felt. And I want to make sure that these children do not get into that position where they resent authority, So right after my brother died, when I was 16, I knew I had to change my life. Because not only his death, but people all around me are all dying of drug overdoses. So I'm seeing this happening, and I'm saying, I don't want to end up this way, and God is putting something in my heart that you need to change, Jerry. You need to change your way of life. But I'm not getting this from anybody else. I'm not getting this from the church. I'm not getting it from my mother. I'm not getting it from my teachers. I'm not getting it from my family. This is coming straight from God. God is coming into my heart and telling me that I need to change my life, and my brother Kevin's death was a wake-up call for me, it took that huge trauma to change my life. So the following year, I was 17, and I said, there's only one way to escape these streets of Brooklyn and get away from all these drugs and all this violence, and maybe put myself on a path where I could start respecting authority, because I knew what I had to do to become a better person. This is like God giving me this information, telling me what I need to do in order to be a better person. So I knew what I had to do, and I said, well, what's my outlet? How do I get out of this? How do I escape this jungle that I'm in of violence and drugs and gangs and murder and people and crime and all kinds of things going on, and in my own household, violence, My brothers and sisters and I, none of us got along. We all fought each other, So we're fighting each other, we're fighting our mother, we're fighting our teachers, we're fighting everybody. We're just not getting along with anybody. But me, I always had kind of a good heart in me. I wasn't an evil person. It wasn't like I woke up and said, hey, what am I going to do today to cause some evil? I had a good heart, but I'm being led astray by people around me, my environment, that I'm living in. And it's leading me to do bad things. But I'm saying, how do I escape this? How can I get away from all this? And just the light bulb went off in my head. I said, I'm going to join the military. And now my education wasn't that great. I was failing all of my classes. Well, not all of them. I did very good in some classes, but very bad in others. But but I didn't realize how much intelligence I had until I went to see an Army recruiter, you know, and they give you a test. It's called the aptitude test, and to see how smart you are. So I didn't know, I had no idea how much intelligence I really had until I took this test. And the aptitude test, you know, you get 100%, you know, I mean, you're like a genius if you get 100%. I think I scored a 96 or 98% on my aptitude test. And the recruiter, he was like, wow. He was like, wow, we got a pretty smart kid here, you know. So he said, you know what, normally when people go into the Army and they're not that intelligent, you know, they usually get the worst jobs, like being a cook, you know, drive a truck or something like that. He said, but you could be whatever you want. He's telling me, he says, you could choose anything that you want to do, you can be it. Because your aptitude test is so high, you're so intelligent, that you can be whatever you want. So I knew, I said, well, first of all, I'm trying to change my life, and I want to do good things. I want to do better things. I want to be a better person. But this is coming from God. Nobody's steering me in this direction. I'm getting this straight from God, you know, because He's putting it in my heart to change my life, you know, to stop all this madness, you know, to put an end to it, you know, because I knew, I said, I can't go on like this. I said, I'm going to end up just like my brother. I'm going to either end up in jail, I'm going to end up dead, one or the other. It's either jail or dead. Those are my options. So I said, well, you know, I'm not. I don't want to go into the Army to kill people. I said, that's not what I want to do. I said, but I would like to help people. I said, it's in my heart to want to do good, not bad things. I said, so he's giving me this whole list of all the things I could be. I could have been a military police. He said, you know, whatever you want. And then he said, you could be a medic. I said, a medic? I said, that sounds pretty good. Now, a medic, you know, this is during the Vietnam War. This was 1971, my brother died. 1972 is when I went into the military, you know, and I became a combat medic. And this is during the Vietnam War. So I was, you know, I went through basic training. I excelled in basic training, obeyed all their orders. I was learning how to be disciplined, to obey orders, to listen to authority, you know, and I was doing it very well, you know, because I had no distractions like from the old environment. Nobody's distracting. I'm focused on what they're training me to do, and so after I completed my basic training, then they sent me to become a medic, which took about 3 months for me to learn how to be a medic. And I was in the top 10% of my class. You know, I think there were about maybe 100 people out of 100. I was in the top 10, you know, just in my class alone, you know, and there was like 100 people in my class. So I'm excelling very well here. I'm doing very well, and I'm learning a lot. You know, I'm learning how to save lives, and I'm feeling good. I'm starting to feel good about myself. That, hey, look, I'm accomplishing something. You know, I'm finally doing something that's not only good for me, but good to help other people. So this is how I learned how to be a better person, was by joining the Army. And then we were in battles, you know, and my only concentration was saving lives, you know, saving somebody's arm, saving somebody's limb, you know, saving them from gunshot wounds. This is what I was doing, I was basically a doctor in the middle of a jungle. I mean, I'm the closest thing that you have to a doctor. It's up to me to either save your life or lose it. I mean, so I was very focused on what I had to do, to save these people. So believe me, I developed this sense of care and devotion to my job that I know these people are depending on me, to save their lives. So I realized how important this was. So that's how I became a better person. And so I managed to escape all that craziness in the jungle that I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. And now I'm a completely different person. Like I'm saying, wow, I'm an accomplished person. I'm, they're promoting me in rank. I'm moving up in rank because I'm doing a good job, and I'm being rewarded for the good job that I'm doing. These are things that I never had before. I was never rewarded for doing good. Nobody ever said, "Hey, Jerry, you're doing a good job. Here's a raise. You're getting a raise." I never experienced that, before. So so when I got out of the Army in 1974, a year later, 1975, I was in Chicago with my brother because he brought me out there to get into the stock exchange, to learn about stocks, the stock market. But they had the Chicago Board of Options Exchange, and they have offices, different places where they do trading. So now I'm learning about accounting, but I wanted to continue in the medical field, but they didn't really have any openings for me that I can continue to be a doctor because I didn't have a degree for being a doctor. I was just trained by the Army to be a doctor, but I didn't have a medical degree for university to be a doctor, so they really couldn't use me in the hospitals. I could be an orderly, but that was about all I was qualified for to be in a hospital. So I said, well, I'm not, I don't have the money to go to a university to continue my medical education. So my brother Frankie suggested that I get involved in the stock market, which he was involved in. He was a manager of great. He was manager of one of the Security and Exchange Commission departments. So he knew a lot of people, and so he got me a job, ground floor job, and it was learning how to do the accounting of all the daily trading. So now I'm learning the mathematics, which was one of my failing things in class. I'm learning mathematics, and I'm very good at it. I never thought that I was that good at it. Like I said, I'm discovering that I have a lot of intelligence that I wasn't using in school because I was a little cuckoo in school. I wasn't paying attention. But I guess some of it was sinking in because all this came to light while I'm working in the stock market, and I'm becoming very smart. I'm becoming computer literate. This is before they had computers like today. They're working with key punch cards, IBM key punch cards. These big cards, and they poke holes in them, and that's how you talk to the computer. So I learned from the ground up in the 70s about computers. So here we are now in 2024. I'm an expert at computers. I learned from the ground. I learned how to program computers before anybody even knew computers existed. So, and I'm programming these computers to tell it to do what I want it to do. I'm creating programs, for output, of all the information I'm feeding it, and what the results of that information is. So I'm learning a lot of things. And at the same time, I was working with boys clubs, because I'm saying, well, I want to help children that are coming from dysfunctional or troubled children. I want to help them to not be like I was and to get on a better track like I got on a better track, you know. But, you know, I'm also a godly person at the same time, you know, that, you know, I'm filled with the Holy Spirit, you know, because like I said, God is like talking to me, you know, in my heart. So in December of '75, while I was in Chicago, my brother went to New York, and I spent Christmas by myself in Chicago, and this is when I had a relationship with God. This is when God came to me. Literally, I saw him, and we spoke, and we spoke for 24 straight hours. God appeared to me, and asked me, "What do you want in this life?" And I really didn't know how to respond at first because I wasn't sure what he was asking me. Like, what do I want right now? Like a new car or something? Is that what you're asking? I had, you know, I couldn't figure out what he was asking me. But then I said, well, Lord, I don't want anything for myself. I said, what I want to learn is your holy word. I want to have the knowledge of your holy word fully. I want to fully understand it. I want to have the wisdom to understand it and be able to relay it to other people, because I want to help people through your holy word. But I want to be right about what I'm saying. I don't want to just like read it and then not understand it, you know, and give people false information, you know, based on my own interpretations. I want it to be coming straight from you. You know, I want you to talk right into my heart. You know, tell me the truth. You know, guide me through your holy word so I can understand it. Fill me with your knowledge. That's what I said, that's what I want. So God responded. He said, you will have that and so much more. So I didn't realize it at the time when he said that, how much more information I was going to get. You know, this is 49 years ago. So I was like, you know, I wasn't overwhelmed that God was there. It wasn't scaring me. It wasn't like this was something abnormal. Like, to me, this is a normal conversation I'm having with God. Like, we were best friends. We were just talking, you know, and he was just talking to me like a regular person, just answering all my questions. And I wrote down everything. We were speaking for 24 straight hours. I mean, from that evening to the next evening, you know, and we were talking the whole time. And I kept asking him questions. Every question I asked him, he kept giving me the answer, and I'm writing it all down. I still have the book. I got a 49-year-old book where my conversation with God, you know. So I knew God was choosing me to do something, but you know, I still don't know what that mission is, but I know what I need in order to fulfill that mission is I know I need your knowledge, Lord. I need to understand what it is you want me to do, and I need to understand your word in order to do it. So this was how I, you know, became a preacher. You know, from 1975, I was prophesying to almost everybody, my entire family, everybody. I'm talking to everybody about God. You know, and I'm trying to tell them how God has been with me since I was a child, since I was 7 years old. God has been with me, watching over me, and taking care of me without me knowing it. You know, but I sensed him being with me, but I just didn't know that he was actually guiding me through all these bad times to teach me that this is something that I don't want to be involved in. That's really, so it was almost like a benefit to go through all this trauma of all these bad times to lead me to a better life. You know, it was like, so, but, you know, in order to know what I had to know what a bad life was. So it was like, it's almost like the knowledge of good and evil. In order to know what good is, well, you got to know what evil is. So I learned the evil. That was the first thing I learned, was the evil. And then I learned how much I despised the evil, that I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And I'm saying, this is bad. I don't want to be like this. I need to be a better person. So once God realized I already turned myself over because I gave up to his will, to become a better person. So God already saw that I'm already submitting myself to him. And that's why he came to me, to instruct me further that I'm kind of giving you a mission, that I'm choosing you. I'm choosing you and selecting you and training you to be a better person and to be a messenger of my word. That's what I'm trying to do. But, you need to learn more things, like accounting and reconciliation of accounting. And this was very important in chronology and timelines and prophecy, to understand biblical events in prophecy. This took a lot of accounting, and mathematics, that very complicated mathematics, So for over a 49-year period, I went through the entire chronology of basically every event that took place in the Bible, and I can tell you the exact dates of when these things happened. Man's history, the way they record history, doesn't always match the Bible. In fact, they're way off. And so it creates confusion when you're trying to understand God's prophecies, and especially when he's giving you a numerical prophecy, like in Daniel 9:24 to 27, the 490-year prophecy that God's giving. That's a numerical prophecy. Now, so this is mathematics. You have to figure out, what are the timelines, what are the events and what are the dates when these things are going to happen. So Daniel is telling us when Jesus Christ is coming to the world. In that prophecy, he's giving us a date. But if you don't know when that date begins, then you can't figure out the prophecy. So that's what got me on the I became obsessed with numerical prophecies. Like God would give a 400-year prophecy to Abraham. I had to figure that out and what it meant. And I do know, believe me, I know. There isn't an event in the Bible that I can't tell you what date it happened. I can tell you when the year of the flood, the year Moses was born. The year Moses was born. I can tell you when Noah was born. I can tell you the exact year of the flood. I can tell you exact dates of when all these events happened. So this became important because I started to see a pattern in all the dates, that these numerical patterns, a lot of it was being revealed in the book of Revelation, where God is giving us numbers, especially the 144,000. That was a dead giveaway for me. And the 1,260 days, that was another dead giveaway for me. And the 490-year prophecy of Daniel. And also the 400-year prophecy he gave to Abraham. So these four things combined are showing me a pattern of timelines where things are happening in a certain numerical integer, dividing these events. So I started noticing the patterns of these events and why they are so holy, because they're being done in a certain timeline that are holy to God, but not many people know this, because the secular calendars in history, when you look at them and compare it to the Bible, they don't match. So I spent 49 years reconciling, because I had this accounting history and I was terrific at reconciling out of balances, for the daily trading. So this was more training that God was giving me on how to reconcile things that were out of balance. So this is how I became so full of knowledge. I became a basic expert on prophecy, and chronology and timeline of events. I'm an expert on it. And there isn't a time in the Bible that I can't tell you what date that happened, and I can tell you when things are going to happen, who they're going to happen to, and when it's going to happen. So this was really great information that God was getting. That's why when God said to me, "You're going to have that and so much more," I had no idea how much more He was talking about. But if you can imagine the universe, just picture the universe, and imagine the enormity of the universe, but now imagine that enormity inside of my head, which is a universe of knowledge that God has given me as a gift. So now I have all this knowledge of God, which to me is my greatest treasure, and Jesus Christ and everything that Jesus did. I mean, from the very beginning, God was teaching me about Jesus from the very beginning in the Bible. So I'm discovering things that are hidden in God's Word that they're not even aware of, but I'm fully aware of. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Like in the 7 days of creation, well, it was really 6 days, because on the seventh day God rested from all His work. Okay, so here's something probably nobody knows, but it's right there. It's obvious to me, but I don't think it's obvious to everybody. But if you just count 6 days, 24 hours per day, that's 144 hours. I'm saying, well, guess what? That matches the 144,000 in the book of Revelation, which is mentioned like 5 times, because He said the walls of the temple were 144 cubits. I'm saying, okay, there's the 144 again, comes up again. And then He mentions the 144,000, I think at least 3 times, the 144,000 chosen, But I noticed that there was something wrong with that 144,000, because it's only listing 12 tribes. There weren't 12 tribes. There were 14 tribes. 2 tribes are missing from those, where it lists the 12,000 from each tribe and 144,000. There's 2 tribes missing that nobody's even aware of, because people are under the assumption that there's 12 tribes. There wasn't. There was 14 tribes. Jacob had 12 sons, but he also adopted Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. That's 14. People don't know how to count for some reason, I guess. But that's 14 tribes. So 2 tribes are missing from those 12 tribes, which equals 144,000. That's what caught my attention. I'm saying, because when people look at it, they're saying, well, they're assuming there's 12 tribes, so they're not looking to see the names of the 12 tribes that are listed there. I'm going to give you 2 names that are missing from those 12 tribes. 2 names are missing: the tribe of Dan and the tribe of Ephraim. That's 14 tribes. The tribe of Dan and the tribe of Ephraim, they're missing from those 12 tribes that amount to the 144,000 people that are chosen by God. Why are those 2 tribes missing? Are they not tribes of Israel? The tribe of Dan? Who's not familiar with the tribe of Dan? Who's not familiar with the tribe of Ephraim? How many times in the book of the Bible is Ephraim mentioned? 100 times. So how could you not know that this Ephraim is missing from this list? So that caught my attention. I don't think it caught a lot of people's attention, because they're under the assumption there's only 12 tribes, but I'm not. I'm well aware that there's 14 tribes, but I'm also aware that there's going to be a 15th tribe of Zadok, which is in the book of Ezekiel. If you read the book of Ezekiel, he lists all 14 tribes, and then he says, instead of the Levites running the temple, the Zadokites, because Zadok was the prophet under David's rule. He was the prophet for David, King David, and Zadok was obedient to God, and for that he was rewarded by giving him. God is giving him his own tribe now in the new kingdom of God. So now there's 15 tribes. And people are still under the impression that there's 12 tribes. There's not. So again, these are little things that I pay attention. I pay attention to every detail. There isn't a detail that's in the Bible that I haven't paid attention to. So, and now getting back to the children, I treat them the exact same way I treat the Bible, with detail. I want to know details. I want to sit down with this child, talk to him as a person with love, care, and respect. That's why I'm excited about doing this job. I want to save these children from becoming like me, the way I was, and showing them that there's a better life ahead. If you could just open your heart. I know that you got a lot of resentment. Believe me, I had it myself. I know you got a lot of anger. I had it myself. I know that, you are totally against all authority. I had that myself. I know that you might be involved with bad people. I did that myself. I know that you might be getting high and doing drugs. I did that myself. There isn't anything that you've done that I haven't done myself. So I can totally relate to these children. And, when I was in the police department, I would be a coach of softball teams. I want to get these boys, get them active, and I would talk to each one of them, and I would get to know them personally, like what kind of what kind of person they were, whether they're irritable, they had attitudes and things like that, and but most of them were good kids. And they really didn't need much encouragement, because them just showing up is encouragement enough, but I still wanted to get involved in their lives to find out any problems at home. Is there any problems at school? Are you being bullied? Is there anybody bothering you? Anybody harassing you? Is there anything that you want to talk about? That's my nature. That's what I do. So am I excited to do this job? Absolutely. I'm so excited. I want to help these children and to save them from what I know their road of destiny, where it leads to. I know where it leads to. Death or jail. I know it because I saw it with my own brother. Either he was going to go to jail for dealing drugs, or he was going to die from an overdose of drugs. And the same thing was happening to all my friends in my neighborhood. I would walk down the street. I'd see one of my friends lying in somebody's front door, dead, just sitting there, and people are walking by, and he's dead from a heroin overdose. So I see him. I'm calling an ambulance because a friend of mine, this guy I know, I grew up with, and he's sitting there dead. So I'm witness to all of this, and I was involved in all of this. I was doing the same thing they were doing, So I know where this leads, and I know what was going to happen. I said, it's like almost like God gave me a picture, Jerry. This is where you're going to end up, and that terrified me, and it was all because I wasn't getting the basic foundation from my own family, from my own teachers, from my church. My church wasn't even helping. Nobody took the time to sit and talk to me. Not my priests, not the nuns. There was one nun. There was one nun that would go out of her way to talk to me. And I would tell her everything, and she would be very sympathetic and understanding. She knew that I was going through problems, And she would try to talk to my mother about it, but my mother just brushed it off, say, Jerry's a bad kid, whatever he's telling you, he's probably making up stories, but I wasn't making up stories. I'm telling her how I really feel and how nobody's helping me, and so she would come to my house and talk to my mother. This is the nun. Not even, I'm trying to talk to the priest. I want to talk, because I want to talk to somebody. Somebody, please listen to what I have to say, that I'm having problems, I want to talk about it, but nobody wants to hear it, so I understand how important this is. This is why I'm so excited. I'm like, this would be a blessing for me and for them and for the academy and for the society as a whole community. This is, to me, this is a godsend to be able to do this job. I'm ready, prepared, ready to rock and roll. I want to get it on with these children. Let's get to work and let's solve some problems, And I guarantee you, you're going to see some positive results, because I'm going to talk to them the way I'm talking to you right now, like human beings. That's the way I'm talking to you right now. That's how I'm going to be talking to them. I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm not going to lie to them. I'm not going to make up stories. I'm not going to make up fairy tales and tell them, oh yeah, I'm guaranteeing you're going to be making millions and millions of dollars. No, I'm going to just talk to them as people, as what they are, and they're good people. They're all good. They just need guidance, and that's what they're lacking. They're not getting the proper guidance. They're being shuffled around. Nobody wants to take care of them. Nobody wants to give them the attention they need. And when it comes to teaching, their parents just want to pawn them off. Let somebody else teach my child. I don't have the time, desire, or the energy to do it. Well, that's your problem. That's your mistake. Don't bring a child into this world if you don't have the heart and soul to care for this child, to give them what they need. If you don't have that, you shouldn't be having children, but it happens. Like I said, you have children giving birth to children. So they haven't raised themselves, now they're raising children. So this is a recipe for disaster, You haven't finished your education, You don't even know how to raise yourself. You're out there doing drugs, and at the same time you're getting pregnant. I'm saying this is a recipe for disaster. So please consider me for doing this job. I know that I would be great at this job. And I know that the children would love me, because they're going to see that I'm an understanding person. There's nothing that they could say to me that I can't relate to, And I want to speak with them one-on-one. I'll speak to them as groups, of course, and I'll give lessons, and I'll preach, show them the Word of God, show them the mysteries of God, how wonderful God really is. These are I have a lot to teach them. As I told you, I've got over 49 years experience in Bible, philosophy, theology, chronology, timelines, prophecies, you name it. I've got it. But that's of course that's important, and I want to get them to Jesus Christ. I want them to understand the love of Jesus Christ, that they're not alone, that God cares for them. I care for them. You care for them. That they're not alone, that people care about you, So yeah, are you struggling? Yes. But you know what? I can help you get out of this, this jungle that you're trapped in. That's what I do best. And I managed to do that on my own, to pull myself up by my own bootstraps, to escape that, all by myself, with no help from anybody. I did it by myself. But not by myself, with the help of God. Was guiding my heart. God was directing me what I should do, because I didn't have a clue. I didn't know how to get out of this. I didn't know how to escape this madness that I'm involved in, that's ruining my life, So please consider me for this job. I'm very excited about it. I live about an hour and a half away from you, and I'm willing to relocate there. My home phone number is 470-709-5965. I have a cell phone, which I usually don't use my cell phone unless I'm out. By the way, currently, I'm volunteering at prisons, helping juveniles. I forgot to even mention this. I'm helping juveniles and adults that are coming out of prison, going into society, and it's called Kairos, and so I volunteer for this program, and as a minister, my first thing is to get them to understand, to accept Jesus Christ as their Savior, and to give them guidance on how to readapt, to move back into society, to become functioning and contributing adults to their communities, get jobs, and help them. Even after they get out, I still help them, and follow up on them to make sure that they're doing okay, So my job doesn't end just by teaching. My job ends, when they are well on their way to success. And even then, I still want to follow up with them and make sure that they're still doing okay. Is everything okay? Are you having any problems? Anything you want to talk about? Are you having any doubts about it? Is anything making you worry? Are you worried about anything? So this is what I want to do. This is what I've been doing. I've been doing this since I'm 21 years old. So please give me the opportunity. I would greatly appreciate the opportunity to do this. Looking forward to doing it. To me, this is almost like a divine blessing from God. To me, this is like providence. That you're requesting this video for me to respond to tell you why I want to do this job. So I hope that I answered all your questions about why I'm excited about doing this job, because I understand the rewards of helping these children, because it's a blessing to all of us. It's rewarding to all of us to be able to help them, and it's a reward for them to become better people, and even if they don't go out and invent a longer lasting light bulb, that doesn't mean that they're not going to be better people. They could be laborers or whatever. It doesn't matter, as long as they're good in their heart. If they can open their heart, then automatically they're going to be good people. And that's what I believe. Just get a person to open their heart. If you can just get them to open their heart and let God in, let knowledge come in, understanding, wisdom, things like that. Once they start letting all that come in, then the options are limitless. What they can accomplish, and they just need to know that. They need to know that that's available to them. That there isn't a time where you cannot stop what you're doing and go on a different trajectory. You never run out of that time, unless this is going to be your life for the rest of your life. If that's what's going to be your life, then there's no time. But now is the time where you can change that trajectory and go off and be that better person, you know, and all the troubles that you have, I can teach you how to put that behind you, all that trauma that you went through, you know, I can teach you how none of that was your fault, you know, you participated in it, but it wasn't your fault that you became this person with an attitude about life, you know. It's the people around you that weren't helping you. That's where the problem was. They weren't guiding you properly. Like me, I had no guidance. Nobody was guiding me, you know, and I developed all kinds of resentment. I don't want to see that happen to children. So, like I said, it takes a village to raise a child, you know, so it takes all of us, you know, and they are a blessing from God. I don't know. Anybody that doesn't think a child is a blessing, to me, first of all, they don't believe in God. If they don't see a child as a blessing, you know, a blessing from God, a miracle from God, you know, that this is a precious miracle from God, a gift from God, given to you and put in your care. God is trusting you by putting this child in your care, you know. So it's like God is blessing you by entrusting you with this task, you know, and it's almost like being a priest, you know. You're given a mission, you know, by God. You're commissioned by God, and that commission is to take care of this child. That's your commission, you know. That's what you know, God. That's God's gift to you, is to take care of that child. And I really feel very bad when these children go astray, but I understand why. It's not a secret, you know. Now, I know, you know, they say, well, sometimes they're mentally deformed or things like that. A lot of times children are misdiagnosed because of what they're doing. But, and they're put in a bad category. Well, this is like, this kid is insane, you know, he's uncontrollable, you know. I don't believe that about kids. I believe that children are what their environment produces, you know. So if you were in, let's say, a paradise environment, then you're going to be, you know, raised in a very paradise kind of lifestyle, you know. But if you're put into a jungle where everything around you is evil, you know, what do you expect to happen to this child? You know, they're going to become victims of their environment. That's inevitable. You are a victim of your environment. It's not you. It's what the environment is teaching you. And if that environment is not beneficial, you know, or nurturing to you, then what do you expect a perfect child to come out of that? No, that's not going to happen. You know, you need to spend time with this child and talk to them as a person. It's very important. You can't just like, no, don't do this. No, don't be that. I mean, there's time to be strict and there's time to be fair, and there's time to listen. You know. Sometimes, you know, kids are really getting out of hand, you know, then maybe you have to be a little firm and strict with that child. But that doesn't mean you got to hurt them. You know, you can be. I don't like the word strict. I think being firm with the child, but you know, at the same time, you could show them, listen, yeah, I know what just happened. You know, I know. Yeah, you just punched this kid. You know, you knocked him out. He's in the hospital. But listen, it's not the end of the world. You know, I don't approve of what you did, but I'm going to tell you why. You know, because just reverse the conditions. Imagine if he did it to you and you're in the hospital. Yeah. Put yourself in that person's place. And that's how children can relate. Just put yourself in that other person's place, and then try to understand how you would feel about it. That's how, that's the main way that I talk to children. Put yourself in the other person's place, and then you can understand how this is affecting other people, what you're doing. Now I understand you have problems, but you're making your problems everybody else's problems because you feel like they don't care about you. And I understand it. I felt the same way. I felt abandoned, that nobody cared, But guess what? I care. And I know you all care. You have an academy set up just for that reason, because you care. I care too. I care more than you can imagine, This is my mission. This is my mission, is to help the needy. That's my mission. Thank you very much. This is Gerald Mitchell. I'll make my next video very shortly. And God bless you all. And God bless all the work that you're doing there, which I commend you on. At least somebody cares for these children. Thank God for that. So have a great day. But I'll be giving you my second video coming up very shortly. Okay. I probably explained a lot in this one video, but there's more to talk about. So I'm going to do that. God bless you all. My phone number again is 470-709-5965. And you already know my email address. Thank you. Goodbye. God bless you.